Hello folks, if you have the Lectric XP 2.0 and you notice that your wheel is wobbling like this, I'm going to show you how you can straighten it out, and all you really need is just this little tool right here. This is the blue Park Tool spoke wrench. I will leave a link in the description below, and we can straighten up those spokes and tighten them up nice and good so your wheel looks nice and straight like this. It's pretty simple to do, and I will show you exactly how you can do it. Let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take this reflector off. You're not going to be able to get in here and work these spokes very well with this thing on. And you just kind of slide it out and you can just kind of pop it off. This thing isn't super useful in the first place, so if you don't want to put it back on, you don't really need to. But you can just kind of slide it and then these little guys right here pop out. And you can put it back on if you like. I'm just going to leave mine off though. And once you have the reflector out of the way, another thing that helps a whole bunch is to go ahead and let some air out of your tire. Find your valve and pull the cap off, and then just kind of push a tool in there and you can let a bunch of air out. I've already let a bunch of air out of this tire, but just, you don't have to let it all out, but just go until it's kind of soft. It's going to make these spokes a lot easier to move. So now what you're checking for is you can actually like physically grab spokes and wiggle them, and you can try to grab like when there's these pairs that come down like this and squeeze them together. And if you feel that some are super loose, I've gone and loosened up a bunch of mine, but these can loosen up on their own. So a big reason why you want to check these spokes on occasion is that the way this motor works is this motor spins up first, then it's grabbing the spokes, which are then grabbing the rim and moving the tire. So there's a whole lot of force that's being applied to these spokes, and they can definitely loosen up over time. You can see I've actually loosened up some of mine. So if you have any spokes that feel like that, you definitely want to get in there and tighten them back up. So you can see like these two are pretty firm, and then I grab those two. That's not good at all. And you can kind of go through. So if you notice that your wheel's wobbling at all, definitely come in here and check these spokes. Another thing you definitely want to be sure of when you're working on this back wheel is make sure that your bike is not turned on. If you need to, you can unplug the you can pull the whole battery out if you like, but just make sure that the power is off and there's no way that the power is going to get turned on. So if you're working on your bike upside down, definitely you might want to pull your battery just out completely before doing this, because you don't want this thing to accidentally go while your fingers are in here, because that wouldn't be any good. And then if you've grabbed your spokes and you've noticed that there's some loose ones, what you can check is right down here. This is the spoke nipple. So just above it, you can see this one's actually nice and tight and it's just smooth. But if I go over to this next one, see if I can wiggle it. See how that one's really loose? And if you look down in here, you can see all these threads of the spoke are exposed. So you don't want to see any of these threads exposed. So that means this thing has backed itself out quite a ways. And if you look at this one, you can also see this one's backed out quite a ways. This one's actually good. You don't see any threads there. This one you can see a couple of threads. This one's good. That one has some threads. So kind of the quick way to just go in and tighten all these back up is to find these ones that you can actually physically see the threads coming out, and then go ahead and grab your blue Park Tool spoke wrench, and then you're going to slip this over the nipple and slide it on like that. And then to tighten these things, you actually need to turn this counterclockwise, because what you're doing is you're actually grabbing the spoke nipple from the back end. So you're tightening it up onto this spoke here. So to tighten these, you're turning this counterclockwise. To loosen them, you turn it clockwise to loosen, counterclockwise to tighten. So if you see this one, and you can see these threads that are right there, if I put this spoke wrench on, and I start turning it counterclockwise a number of turns, now you can see there's no more threads exposed. So a kind of a quick way to go in and tighten them all up is to look for these ones that have exposed threads and just tighten these nipples up just to the point where you don't see any more exposed threads. And you can kind of go around your whole wheel and do all that, and that's going to tighten any of the loose ones. You can also kind of go by feeling them and feeling them wiggle. You can see that one's super loose. That's because it's almost halfway out. So I'd want to go in with my park tool and turn this counterclockwise. And this one's pretty loose, so I need to go quite a bit. And these will get tighter and tighter as you're turning them. And then you can pull it off. You can see, I can still see a couple threads there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it until the threads are gone. And now you can see there's no more threads on that one. So you're just kind of going around the wheel and looking at each one of these. This one has a little bit of threads. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that one a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Now if I spin it to this one, so I went and loosened a bunch of these up to do this video. So I'm gonna have to tighten quite a few. And you're also gonna wanna make sure that you're checking the ones on this other side back here too. So the way I have this wheel set up, I'm sitting from behind the wheel right now. If you zoom way out, you can see. So I'm back here behind the wheel. So this side right here is what's called the non-drive side. And then this side over here is called the drive side. So these spokes are on the drive side where the gears are. So this side that has the gears are going to be a whole lot stiffer because of the way the wheel is offset. So this side that's on the side of the brake, the non-drive side, these are going to be a lot easier to tighten up. These ones over here are going to be a lot harder. So if you're just noticing, if you're trying to turn these ones that are on this other side, they're just simply going to be a lot tighter. So go ahead and go all the way around your wheel, checking each individual nipple. And you can see this one on this side. You can see that over there. That has some threads out. This one has some threads out. That one looks good. That one's good. This one has a little bit. So I would just go through and find each one of these that has some exposed threads down here and just tighten each one up just to the point where the threads are gone. That way they're kind of nice and even. You don't want to go a whole lot past the threads, or else, like, if I did that on this spoke, then this one will be super tight. So go ahead and go all the way around your wheel, checking all of these little guys. Tighten the ones up that you see the threads on, and then I'll show you how you can dial in your rim and do what's called truing it. Once you have at least your basic tension down, and then you can dial in the rim so that it's as straight as it can be. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but we want to get it as straight as we can. A couple little quick tips for doing this. So when you're using your park tool spoke wrench here, just make sure when you slot it down that it's fully gripping the spoke nipple. So you want to make sure that that's getting a full grip on this, because it's really easy to turn these and strip them out. But these big ones, this blue tool really gets a nice good grip on these guys. And if you're really struggling with turning one of these, what you can also do is grab some of your chain oil. I like this Finish Line e-bike chain oil. And you can just drip like a tiny little drop, just enough so that it gets onto the threads. And you don't have to squirt a bunch, you'll just make a mess. But just a little bit in there can help loosen those up if the threads are super tight. And then you can see I can turn it a lot easier. So a little drop of chain oil in there helps quite a bit. But only do that if you're just really struggling with one of the nipples and you just can't get it to turn at all. Then try doing the chain oil trick. So now once you've gone through and tensioned all the spoke nipples up so that you don't see the threads anymore, you can grab the spokes again and just feel them and make sure that they're all tight. So if you spin it, you'll notice what you're looking for is right on the rim. Don't worry about the tire wobbling around. The tires always wobble a little, but you're looking at the rim to see how straight that is. And A quick way that you can kind of cheat and make your own truing stand on the bike is just to grab a zip tie, and you can go right around this little part of the rack and zip tie it down, or then just tuck it in kind of right into there. So what you can do is if you tie it right around here, and then I cut it right next to the rim right here, you create a little marker now. You can see how far the rim is from this little piece right here. And this can help you kind of fine tune the spokes. So this is the part that can get a little tricky. And for the most part, if you've gone through and tightened up all of these spokes so that you don't see the threads anymore, and your wheel's looking pretty straight, you should be good to go. But if you do want to kind of fine tune it, and you're using the zip tie trick up here, what you can do is spin your wheel, and you're looking for any sections that are kind of wobbling just a little bit. And at this point, if you've tightened all these nipples up, it's just going to be a little bit of movement. Just check and see if there's maybe like one section that's kind of just a little bit wobbly. And on mine, if I spin it really good, it's actually pretty straight. But I would almost say like this section right there is a tiny bit pointing that way. So to fix it, what I'd want to do is, this was the spoke where this section of the rim was a little too far this way. So it means that this spoke is tensioned a little bit too tight. So it's pulling this section of the rim a little too far this direction. So in order to fix that, I can just slip the tool over, and I want to detension it, so I'm going to turn it clockwise just a little bit. Maybe try like half a turn. And then you can spin your wheel again, and you're checking it back again up here on my little cheap truing stand zip tie. And you can kind of just keep going around your rim. And to be honest, like, you could really spend hours doing this part and getting this thing just perfect. But if it's pretty straight and you don't see any more threads on any of the spokes, and you can grab them all and the tension feels pretty good, then you should be good to go. Just check your spokes every once in a while. You know, if you notice your wheel wobbling at all, then go ahead and stop and inspect the spoke nipples and look for those threads that I pointed out earlier. And then you can just use your little park tool and go ahead and tighten up any loose ones that you have. These can loosen up quite a bit. This motor puts a lot of torque on these guys. And the issue is that if they loosen up a lot and you just keep riding on them loose like this, then they can eventually break. And I work at a bike shop, and we can't get spokes this short and not spokes this gauge either. So just replacing and fixing a broken spoke or two on a normal wheel is pretty easy, but on these wheels, it's nearly impossible. So if you break enough spokes, or really if you just break one or two, I wouldn't ride on the wheel anymore. You may have to replace your whole wheel or find some specialty shop that might have these things. So using this tool and keeping these things nice and tight is always a really good idea. And if you want more repairs on the Lectric XP, I got a whole playlist right up there. You can definitely check that out. Hopefully this helped. Truing wheels can be a challenge, but we just want to keep you riding and keep you safe. Thanks for watching.